Welcome to Grow Good, a podcast of conversion stories, to share encounters with the living God, to bear good fruit, a place where others can meet or be inspired to meet God. So get cozy, lean in, and listen close. Miracles are at work, and He wants to meet you too. My name is Rachel Smith, and I'm your host. Now let's start growing some good. Hi, friends, and happy Tuesday. It's feeling so good to be back in your ears. I thank you so much for listening, and I'm just so excited to see what God has in store for this next collection of stories and this next season of my life and all of your lives. I cannot wait this week to bring you an incredible story, a conversion story of Stella, who now works helping children in the foster care system to find safe and secure homes. But she has had quite the journey to Catholicism. She was actually raised in Islam, in the Islamic faith, and then she went through a long period of seeking and searching in her life. She actually tried a lot of different ideologies and religions. She went from Judaism to atheist to Methodist. She tried out the Unitarian Universalist Church for a while, and eventually feeling herself literally drawn to physically pray the Rosary, which is just crazy and incredible. And that's really what started softening her heart to Catholicism. And now she's discerning a religious vocation to become a sister. So how incredible is this? This is God. This is how He works. He allows us to seek all the questions of our heart, and then to find the answer in our own time. And so I can't wait to bring you this story of seeking and finding, knocking, and the doors opening for Stella this week. Without any other delay, here is my conversation with Stella. Stella, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
So good. And I'm so glad you're here. Can you just start us out by telling us a little bit about you and what it is that you do right now?
Yeah. So I am a girl that lives in California. I graduated with a social work degree and stuff. So what I do is I work with a company, a nonprofit that works with foster youth. So that's what I do.
Wow, that's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm really excited just to get into your story and how you made your way into the Catholic faith. But do you want to just start maybe with the beginning, if you wouldn't mind just sharing maybe a little bit about your background, how you grew up, what kind of was your relationship to God, and your religion, and then if you had a kind of first encounter at a personal level where you started to realize that God was there.
Yeah. So, gee whiz. Well, basically, I was raised Muslim, and so that's my background. My mom and dad were both Muslim, although my dad, he converted to Islam, but then later on went back to being Catholic. So there's that. And let me see. Also, when it comes to my relationship with God, it was really interesting because, like, back then it was, I was raised with being kind of scared of God because, I thought if I messed up or I, didn't do good, then I would end up going straight to hell. And yeah, I heard a lot of scary stories about that. So I didn't want to go there. So I just I followed the religion of Islam out of obligation rather than out of love and dedication. So, yeah, but later on, when I was 15, I ended up deciding to learn more about my religion just so that, I could do better and hopefully get to heaven. So anyways, that happened. And while I was learning, I found some things that I just sort of didn't vibe with. So what happened was I ended up slowly but surely kind of leaving Islam. And after that, I went on a journey for like a couple of years where basically I ended up, for a couple of years, I ended up learning about other religions. And it was really enlightening to learn what other people believe and stuff. But eventually I was drawn to learn more about Catholicism because, I just felt this pull one day to learn about it for some reason. And it was really a good time learning about it, especially when like the day came when I first started learning about it. I remember wanting to pray the rosary so much that I took one of my grandma's rosaries and I started praying it, even though I had never done so before. So it's really cool.
Wow, that is nuts. I can't believe that. Okay, I need to back up because
Okay.
oh my gosh. So I don't know. I'm really not that familiar with Islam. Do you mind just sharing I guess, what, maybe a little bit about what it's like, what you believe as, when you were, a Muslim and the differences, I'm not super familiar with that. And then maybe if you want to just share a couple of the things that you felt didn't really jive and, kind of why you fell away from that. And then I want to get to the rosary for sure and how you felt pulled to that, because that is that's incredible.
So when it comes to Islam, I guess the background of it is that most basic things are that they believe that there's only one God and that this guy, his name is Muhammad, is the messenger, and it also says that Jesus is a prophet, not so much, he's not God in that religion. And so, those are some of the basic beliefs. And what else? There's just a lot to it, but there's also just you pray 5 times a day and you give charity and things like that. So it doesn't sound bad, but at the same time, for me, it didn't go well with what I believed, just because of the fact that I ended up, when I was looking into it at age 15, I remember reading some things from texts that I had, and some of them were some of the things I learned that are beliefs are kind of they're things that kind of make me feel kind of icky. I remember learning about one of the prophet's wives. There's debate over how old she was and stuff, but he was much older than her, and she was below the age of 10. So that I didn't like learning about that, and I tried to find rationalizations for it, but none of the answers I got about that were satisfying, because they're things that just don't sound right. She was very mature and wise for her age and things like that. And it just, I don't know about that. I didn't like it. But also, I learned other things too, like that. I remember hearing that if a woman, she's married to her husband and she doesn't sleep with him and he gets angry, then apparently the angels curse them, curse the lady for until morning for not making him happy or something. So there's just things like that I really, it didn't sit well with me. And not only that, but I just couldn't keep up with my prayers, and I thought I was going to hell for sure. And just also the main thing also was I felt afraid of God again, and I I didn't feel God's love, and it felt like, if God's going to be all fire and brimstone, what's the point of even like following him? I don't want to follow a God that like doesn't care about me and just wants to punish and rule over everyone. So I just sort of left. Yeah.
Yeah. And what would Islam, I know you're not like a theologian or anything, like an expert, but what would they say about the Bible? Do they believe it's the word of God or?
Well, apparently they think that, I think that they think that it's somewhat the word of God, but that it got corrupted or something. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. That is wow. But so when you were 15, you got more into it because you wanted to pursue, what your religion was telling you. If you're going to live it, you wanted to realize, what it is that, you're believing, and then you wanted to go to heaven, obviously. So you're trying to do all these things that you're supposed to do. And in that process, that's kind of when you started to run into some questions. And when you got deeper, it almost wasn't getting better. It was almost getting worse in some ways.
Yeah, it was falling apart.
Okay. And so then you started looking into other religions, you said. So what religions did you look at? Did you go to other services or?
Yes, I did. I went to, let me see, there's this thing called Unitarian Universalism. And basically, that was the first kind of church I went to. And it kind of accepts all beliefs or even mixes of beliefs as, okay, you do you, that sort of thing. So it was more so not so much of a church service as it was just a community gathering. So that's what I think anyways. But yeah, that's where I first started because I was not very sure what I believed at that point. And so I was just exploring and I thought, hey, I'll use this as home base because since they go with just about anything, then I can just come back here if I need to. And yeah, but then, I just kept looking and I looked at Protestant Christianity. I went to like a Methodist church for a while just to, see what they believed and how they dealt with God. And that was an okay experience, but something just kind of felt like it was missing or hollow. And I tried other Protestant churches as well, like non-denominational and the like, but it just didn't really do much for me. So I kept looking and I looked at Reform Judaism. That's like a sect of Judaism. And I went to a synagogue and, kind of learned and talked to the rabbi. And it was really a nice experience. But I don't know. It just also seemed like the entire time I was there, like I liked it. It was nice. But at the same time, there wasn't really the structure I was looking for with that because I really wanted something to help guide me like on my way to heaven or whatever. And it was just sort of like be a good person and that's it. That's what I learned. And yeah, so I just I kind of wanted more structure. So I kept looking and I felt really lost at that point because like I'm looking at all these different religions, including ones that, I don't know too much about, but I still tried to look at. And yeah, it was just like I felt like there was stuff that I wasn't doing that I could have been doing. It was, yeah. But anyways, what I ended up doing was I just sort of sat with myself and, went over my beliefs and it was just a mess. But then eventually I ended up, just getting this moment of inspiration one day. It felt like it came out of nowhere. Where I just sort of felt like, I need to look at Catholicism. My grandparents are Catholic. I am currently living with them because at that time I was 18. I had moved out of my mom's house to live with my grandparents. And yeah, I decided, what, let's take a look at Catholicism, see what they say. And because I had been to a few a few masses before with my grandparents, but I went there with preconceived notions like, oh, they're eating the flesh of God. That doesn't sound right. It sounds cannibalistic, stuff like that. And I mean, I knew, like, back then I also thought that the Eucharist wasn't actually the Eucharist. I thought it was just like, a cracker. So I just had silly beliefs. But in the end, I decided, you know what, it's time to look at this and actually give it a shot. So, I signed up for RCIA pretty soon after that and went to my first class. So, yeah.
Wow. And so this whole time, though, you never stopped believing in God, right?
Well, funny about that. I tried to keep my faith in God, but then I kind of let go of it here and there throughout the journey, just because I was so lost. I didn't have a point of reference. And, I kind of listened to some people who were atheists who were talking, and, I thought they're making sense. This fire and brimstone God is awful. So, I mean, but that was before I knew, how loving God can be and of his mercy and stuff. So,
yeah. Because I mean, when you were talking, I was like, man, at this point, I'd probably be like, forget it. Like, you've gone to all these different, religions, and everybody is saying kind of different things, and it would just be really confusing. And so I definitely understand, turning to kind of the atheist point of view and seeing what they had to say about it. And so, wow, you've really covered like the whole span of all different sorts of things. And then how beautiful that you kind of had this thought out of nowhere, but also at the same time, you had moved in with your grandparents. And I think looking back now, how God's hand really was in it for you, because I mean, you move in with your Catholic grandparents and, you're looking and you're searching and you're kind of wondering these bigger, deeper questions. And you're kind of like, I don't really want to go to the Catholic Church. But then, by going to Mass, there's grace there, just like in being present at Mass. And I feel like I'm sure that, that whole time it's kind of drawing you closer and closer, even when we don't realize it. So then let's talk about when you picked up the Rosary. So how did that happen? Was that before or after you had been going to RCIA?
This was before. So it actually kind of started before I decided to look at Catholicism, because I was on a trip with my grandparents in New Mexico, and we we were just driving and stuff, and I had gotten a rosary at a church that we had went to for my first rosary, because it was just like, it smelled like roses, the rosary. So I decided, I want one of these. It's kind of cool. So got one and got it blessed by a priest, because why not? And anyways, we're in the car driving, and I don't know how, but we get on the subject of Saint Joan of Arc. And anyways, I look up, when she was canonized and stuff like that. And I can't tell. I think it was when she was canonized, when it was on my birthday, like years and years before I was born, but still it was on my birthday. So I'm like, oh, yeah, that's so cool. And my grandma's like, it's a sign. And I'm just like, I don't know. But still, it started there because I just sort of, I guess that piqued my interest a bit. I really wanted to be close to God, like St. Joan of Arc was. But anyways, later on, we're getting ready to like move into a new house and stuff. And so my rosary is, put away in my stuff that already got put in a loading van. And anyways, so what I end up doing is I get this, spark of interest for Catholicism, and I decide, what, time to look into it. But, it's not like I can start, that same day I'm having this feeling. So what I ended up doing was I knew my grandma had, she has rosaries everywhere. That's kind of just what she does. And I don't blame her. But at the same time, I remember finding one of her mini rosaries and taking it. And then she also had a pamphlet or mini pamphlets of how to pray the rosary just laying around. So I took one of those and went to my room, and I made sure no one could hear me. And then I started praying it.
Oh my gosh, how beautiful. Oh,
Right.
I
And
love
then,
that. I
right.
love that.
And then it's like when I prayed it and I finished that, first set of mysteries, I wanted to pray more, but I thought you could only do one a day. So, I just decided not to do more, but I really wanted to.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And so this was before you even went to RCIA, but that was like right when you kind of thought the Catholic Church. So you had already gone to like kind of these different faiths and had been searching and feeling really lost. Really.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
And it was like, I felt so at peace when I was praying the rosary. It was like so wonderful. And I just wanted to cling to that feeling and hang on to it as tight as I could because it was so good.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so then, so what happened then? So you go through RCIA and how is that experience? Are you learning more or was it, I know sometimes, they're great RCIA program. Other times, you don't really get to learn a ton about the beauty of the church and the depth of it. Yeah.
Well, when I went to RCIA, it was a good experience. I did learn, the basics of what, the Catholic faith teaches. And it was very educational. But at the same time, then we got to the social issues. And I was just like still either on the fence or very liberal about my views. And so I was just like, thinking relativistic thoughts like, well, if it doesn't hurt anyone, then I don't see what the problem is, things like that, instead of like, why does God say this isn't right? So, anyways, we touched on the social teachings and I decided, what, this maybe isn't for me. So I backed off a bit for a few months and I just sort of gave myself some space to just sort of think about things. And that's when I was like, giving myself time to grow and kind of explore my thoughts more in depth instead of being threatened by, oh my goodness, they believe this is wrong, things like that. So, yeah, that's what I did. I took some time off. And then the next year in January, I decided, what? Time to put on my big girl pants. Let's try this again. So, I went back in for a second set of RCIA classes. So the whole process in total took me like 2 years when it could have taken me just one, but it happens in God's time. So
totally. Yeah. No, I think that makes total sense. And it's tough. I mean, I find myself saying that these teachings are literally like, right, they're from God. So like, they're not easy. They're not easy to come to know. And it takes time, it really does. And everyone's on a journey, I think a lot of the time in different areas, and a different area might be harder for someone than someone else because of life experiences or what they've been exposed to. But how beautiful that we kind of have this, pillar of truth that has lasted for thousands of years. Yeah. And it kind of waits, God, like he waits for us. And he's always there, always drawing us near, always working on us to come, to come closer. And so I feel like that is so clear in your story, just how it's so true that I feel like it's this pull, it's this draw that you keep wanting to come back to, even if you walk away for a little while. It doesn't really go away. It's always like, hey, what about that? That one time that I felt that peace when I prayed that rosary. I mean, that was real. Like, how do you forget that once it happens? It's just
right.
Yeah, it's an experience. Like, it's true. Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. So, so how has he since played a role in your life? What have been some of your biggest challenges on this journey, and what have been some of your greatest joys since then?
Well, let's start with the challenges, I guess. Let me see. I guess the challenges have not, they've just been that I feel like I have to die to myself a little bit sometimes. It's just like, it's not my will, it's God's will. And that's a challenge sometimes because, I want to be the one that's in control of my life, and I don't want to depend on anyone else, because I've had experiences in my life where I tried depending on people and it didn't work out. So I'm hesitant, but at the same time, I look at God, I see, how he trusted, and that just sort of helps me to, let go a little bit and give the control to him, let him take the wheel, if you will. So yeah, that's one of the challenges, but the joys, those are a lot of them, because let me see, because it's like, I remember the day that I got baptized and entered the church, because, okay, I entered the church during Corona season. Hooray. So
Oh my gosh. Wow. This was really recent.
Yes, actually, because
When was this?
yeah, because I couldn't do it on Easter because, all the churches were closed. But what we
Wow.
ended up doing was later on, like, what was it? July. I remember it's July 29th of this year. We decided, you know what, we can do this. It's just we have to do it outdoors. So there were only like a certain amount of people allowed in the plaza, but we did our thing. I got my baptism. I got my confirmation. My confirmation saint is Saint Rose of Lima, and my first Holy Communion is what I got. So
Wow. And what was that
yeah.
experience like?
Well, I mean, I remember the day I did it. It was just like, oh, okay. I was kind of expecting to feel a little bit more, but that's okay. So that's what I felt. But in the days afterwards, like it's right immediately afterwards, I started feeling like, whoa. All of a sudden, I feel like at peace. I feel wonderful. It's like I can't put it into words. It's something you have to experience. It just felt so good. And like I just kind of realized like, wow, I belong to God now. So I just I felt like I had been freed from a lot of stuff. And so I felt like, you know what, I kind of need to give my life to God now. It's just like I felt so dedicated to God, and I still do. And because of that, now I'm like, maybe I could be a religious sister. Who knows? So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, the story. For some reason, I did not realize it was so recent. And
Yeah, I might have forgotten to tell you.
wow, that's just incredible, though. Wow. I mean, and it's so true. It's like once we let him in, it's just like this outpouring of grace.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you just feel this like knowing that, yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like, I am of God now, and nothing. I love all the scripture that a lot of it's like St. Paul, I feel like writing, but when he's like, what can man do to me? Like what do I have to be afraid of? Like I am God's
Yeah.
now, and I am his and he is mine, and there's really nothing else to be afraid of after that. Like you live out you run toward God, you live out the sacraments and you frequent them, and it's just an endless abundance of grace. That's what I've
Yeah,
found so far. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like, wow, I can't put it into words, but at the same time, it's just like at this point, I feel so in love with God, and I feel like I owe him every part of myself because of all that he's done for me, even before, I came into existence. So it's just like,
Yes.
wow, because even before I became Catholic, though, I've had experiences with God where it's like, I felt like he was there with me, and I didn't understand at the time that, he wasn't the fire and brimstone God, but yet I still felt like he was there with me. So it's like, because I remember one time where I was going through a lot of stuff. And what happened was that, I ended up like turning on the TV. I'm just like trying to zone out and watch something that takes my mind off of it. And on TV, like it was an episode of George Lopez, I think. And it was basically like, this kid, he was wanting to like make his dad proud or whatever by doing stuff and trying to prove himself to his dad. But, George Lopez, he's over here like, hey, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. If he can't see that you're doing good, then, what's it even worth trying to do that? So it was like, because my problem was that I wanted to make my mom proud. And so, I was doing all I could, and she just sort of wasn't, taking that in. So I just realized after watching that, like, wow, I really don't have to try and prove myself to people by going above and beyond, you know what I mean? So
yeah, like how beautiful. He was speaking through George Lopez, but basically, I love you. Yeah, he was basically saying like, I love you, and I see all the good that you're doing, even if others don't. Yeah.
And then there was like another time, like separate TV show, because it wasn't just through TV. There were other incidents, but another time I was watching an episode of what was it? Full House. I don't know why I was watching it, because I hate Full House, but at the same time, because I've been through some abuse in my life, and it was difficult. I was 16 at the time, just sort of, just figuring out, oh, wow, so this wasn't normal. And anyways, I was kind of scared, though, to go see a therapist, like all the books I was reading were telling me to. And because I didn't want certain people to get in trouble and stuff like that. But then there was an episode of Full House called, I think it's called A Door Called Dad. And basically, one of the kids in the episode is being abused, and he doesn't want to tell anyone except for this one character, because he doesn't want his dad to get in trouble and stuff. And then one of the characters on the show is just like, you really, we're proud of you for saying something, and you need to tell someone, because if you don't, it could keep on happening, or it could happen to other people. So I decided, after that, I decided I'm going to go to therapy and get all this dealt with. And eventually I did end up leaving my mom's house to go live with my grandparents. And things got better after that. Like, they really did. And I just feel like, wow, had I not seen that episode, I might not have gotten help. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. It just blows my mind how he's there all the time, and he really is speaking to us. We have to be able to, we have to have the eyes that can see, as it says, like in scripture, like having eyes that can see and ears that can hear. It's a different kind of hearing and seeing,
Right.
But when you see his hand in it all, he's there, and he's reaching out, and he's trying to help us and love us and guide us back to him. And I just love so much how your story it just depicts that in so many ways, and it's so beautiful. Wow. Yeah. And so I meant to, when you were talking, one question that came across my mind was just, how did you get over, you mentioned the Eucharist, like, for example, at one point you thought it was kind of, like just them eating cannibalism or like a wafer, but it didn't really mean anything. So it sounded like you kind of had a journey with the Eucharist. How did you come to know it, if you don't mind sharing?
Because I remember my first round of RCIA, they were talking about the Eucharist, and I was like, I don't believe this. But at the same time, and the second time around, I just sort of opened my mind and my heart, and I'm like, you know what? Let's give this an actual try and not just judge it before listening. And, at first I still wasn't convinced exactly, but as time went on, I just sort of began to feel like, you know what? Maybe this is actually Jesus, because, it's just, I don't know how to put it into words. I'm bad at that sometimes, but it's just the feeling of trust came into me, and I just sort of was like, you know what? If this is God, then it's God, and me not thinking so isn't going to change it. So, I just decided, you know what? Let's put our trust in God, and now I feel like I actually do believe that it is, Jesus. So
yeah. And
it's not cannibalistic either.
Yeah. And like what you're saying, like how I love how you said, when you kind of when you have it, when you receive it, you don't necessarily feel, it's not like the sky opens up and you see, it's not like you can feel it in the moment. But I love what you said about the days after, because I've experienced that too. It's like a, I don't know, it's like a coating of grace or whatever, of peace that kind of follows you around, and it makes a difference in living out your life, which is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? In retrospect, I'm kind of glad that I didn't get that feeling all at once, and that it just kind of increased every day a little bit, because had it all hit me at once, I probably would have started crying right on the spot and made a scene. So yeah.
I know. I love that. I think it was Father Mike Schmitz. I don't know if you've, but he was talking about like how God he hides himself in a way in the Eucharist, because if we saw him, we would obviously lose it. So how beautiful,
right,
that
we're not meant for that on earth.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your first encounter with the Bible, and when did that happen along your journey? Do you remember?
Okay, so I remember when I was looking at Protestant Christianity, I decided, I wanted to just, get my own Bible, because if I'm looking into it, you need to get the book. So, I decided to go to this place, and it was a place called Lifeway. It's like a Christian store that it's since closed where I live, but they were selling Bibles, and they had one for like $5. So I got one of those, and I started reading it and highlighting with my little Bible highlighter, and it was really fun. But later on, I decided I'm going to look at Catholicism, and when I did, I got another Bible. This time, I've gotten so many Bibles at this point, but anyways, I got one. It's called the New Catholic Answer Bible. And it has like these pages, these colored pages in there where it answers questions you may have, like why do Catholics think the Eucharist is really Jesus, and how was Mary sinless, just things like that in between the Bible pages. But anyways, so I looked at that one, and I learned a lot. So yeah, Bibles are great.
Yeah. And I'm sure the first time reading, like you were saying, Jesus,
it was moving.
Like you're encountering really the New Testament and the Old too, but the new one really for the first time, hearing what Jesus actually said and did.
Yeah.
It is moving when you kind of encountered it that more personal level when you're on your journey.
That honestly changed my mind so much. And I remember when I was going through with my Bible highlighter, I was highlighting like everything Jesus was saying, because it wasn't like one of those red letter Bibles where what he says in red. So yeah, it was just like I highlighted so much of what he said, because it felt so right, and it was so loving, and wow. I love the Bible.
Yeah, and how it just speaks to like your life right now, yet it was like thousands of years ago. It's just like, what? Like how? And that's what truth is. I don't know. It pierces through the time and centuries, because it withstands. It's true, and it never goes away. And I love what you said too about the Eucharist, about how whether I believe it or not doesn't change whether it's really him. And so,
and that really helped me also with the social teachings, because in the end, I'm like because I said I was, talking about relativism, about like how, I thought that, if it's right for one person and not right for another, then that's valid. No, now I realize, there's absolute truth. And so whether I believe this is true or not, it's true. So, it's just like I started trusting God more. And that's how I came to believe in a lot of the things that, the Catholic Church teaches, because I took a look into it and it makes sense. It checks out. So it's like, even if I don't want this to be true, it's true. So, I got to die to myself and believe,
Yeah, totally. And I have found too, I feel like the closer you get to him and his love for you and others, it's like they start to make a lot more sense. You know,
It does.
it really does. Because it's less about the convenience of an earthly life, right? And more about like, how do we love one another? Like, how do we honor the dignity of every human life from conception to natural death, you know? And that's, of course, God would want that, you know? Of course, that has to be the way, you know? And of course, you know, the world would say otherwise because, you know, it's just living for itself, you know? So, what drew you to Christianity? I guess Christianity was kind of the last big player there. Is that kind of what happened, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a jumble, but even still, the whole reason I was drawn to Christianity was because even when I was looking at all these other religions, I remember, like, you know, for some of them, I would have to give up Jesus, and I'm like, but I love Jesus, and it's so weird because it's like, I didn't really learn too much about him when I was Muslim, but I still really wanted to hold on to him because he just felt so comforting, and that was, again, very strange to me, but at the same time, I just I couldn't let him go. So I decided, you know what, let's take a look at Christianity, because at least there I would be able to hang on to Jesus, and look where I am now.
How beautiful. Oh my gosh. So what have been some of your standout influences along your journey, whether it's, a book or a podcast or a speaker? Maybe it was a retreat or even a sacrament that has really helped you on your journey.
Well, I suppose some books that have helped me on my journey have been just random ones that I have found in my local Catholic bookstore. But let me see. Speakers, yes. When it comes to speakers, I like Father Mike Schmitz very much. He's very good at speaking, and I think he's very inspirational. And actually, you just interviewed her, but Lizzie's Answers, actually. Lizzie Rizet, she's like one of the best people I've listened to. Because I remember I was watching her even before she announced she was becoming Catholic, because I thought, you know, she could help me on my journey to becoming a Christian. And
wow,
when I saw that she had become Catholic, or was becoming Catholic, I had just started considering going to RCIA. And so, you know, it was just like, wow, I decided to keep watching, and I learned more. And
Wow.
And she actually inspired me to come on here today. So,
wow. Yeah. I love it. I love it. It just keeps going and going. That I love, it's also scripture like that. I think it's God's word never comes back like empty, just like how it just continues to multiply and touch others and grow out. And thank you so much for sharing it too. The last question that I hope to ask everyone who comes on is, can you share with us one scripture verse that is either speaking to you recently or that has played a foundational role in your journey, and why?
All right. I was having trouble between choosing two of them, which was the one about the woman who committed adultery, or the one about the parable about the prodigal son. And I think for this podcast, I want to choose the prodigal son one, because that's what it feels like. It's like I was lost for so long, and then I'm coming home, and instead of like, I'm walking home, I'm like, you know, I don't deserve you, Lord. You've just done so much for me. I don't deserve you. And yet he's running towards me, and he's embracing me, saying, get the best clothes, get the fattest calf so he can have it. And you know, I'm like, I'm not worthy. And he's like, no, you are. I love you so much. And it's just, wow. I love it. That's my favorite parable.
Oh, that's so good. Yes. And I love what you said about, feeling so undeserving. And yet he just loves us that much that he really just wants to give. He wants all our own desires to be fulfilled. You know, like he came so that we could have life and have it to the full, you know, like he wants us to have that joy on earth as much as we can until we can finally be together with him in heaven forever, it's just so beautiful. And I love that you picked that one because it's so true with your story. And just, I totally get how you can relate to that. Well, thank you so much, Stella. This has been awesome. I'm so, so grateful that you came on and shared your story. It's amazing just the ways that he has shown himself to you in your life, the way that he basically kind of surrounded you with your grandparents but yet at the same time let you have this journey of questioning and coming to him on your own terms. And I love, love, love how Our Lady just like drew you in literally through the Rosary. And I think that that's the power of the Rosary. I mean,
Yes.
Father John Ricardo, he's another one that I love to listen to. I don't know if you know about him, but would highly recommend his show. It's really good. But he was talking about just like how prayer, obviously we can't understand it like, because we're human, but it works. And he was saying how like it basically, he believes like it like cuts down someone's resistance to God.
Yeah.
And I think that that's exactly what through the Rosary and through those things, you were able to come to accept and know more of him and his church, because this resistance or whatever the word you want to use, like that separation between you and God is like becoming smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, it's been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to see what else is, in store for me. Like, because again, I said I might want to be a sister. So I decided to join a virtual retreat. They're going to do it over Zoom. And so I'm doing that with a certain order. So that's going to be neat.
Wow.
It's going to be like, in like November or something. So yay.
That's awesome. I feel like we'll be praying for you. We'll all be praying for you for just to discern, your vocation and where God's calling you next. And that's the cool thing is like from here on out, it's just a journey, right? Which is exciting. I mean, knowing how he does interact with us, and then being able to look forward to the future for how he's going to guide and kind of show you your plan for your life. So it's awesome. Thank you so much again, Stella. This has been awesome.
You know what? No worries. I love, talking with people about my story.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you again for coming on and for giving your yes and for inspiring others.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for growing some good with us today. Visit us at togrowgood.com/podcast to find links to everything we mentioned in today's conversation. If you enjoyed today's conversation, would you please consider leaving us a review on iTunes or on whatever app you're listening from? Reviews help podcasts to show up higher in search results so that more people can find these incredible stories of the Lord at work. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider sharing it with a friend, a family member, or a coworker who might enjoy the conversation as well. Find us on Instagram at @togrowgood. See you next week.